Hi, Eryka.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a cool event.
Why, thanks. So tell us, what is a security token to you? What do you think it is?
So a security token is what is going to disrupt the traditional financial systems. And basically what it is, it's a hard asset backed by a token. A token backed by a hard asset.
Got it.
To me, my biggest interest is how do we make all this tech and all this money work in a way that's better for society and not just like a few people. I mean, I lived in the Peace Corps with people that literally had $0 or very, very little, and think about how do you like structure a new kind of wave of capital markets and such that it's not like idealistic or crazy or like there's no profit incentive, but in a way that creates maybe more stable or sustainable outcomes for everybody.
What's incredibly exciting is all the rails that are being built to make this possible. It's not just security token exchanges, which are obviously necessary, but companies like TokenSoft that we love that are really offering end-to-end solutions, or Verify Investor, which are offering KYC AML. So we're getting all of the pieces that are needed to really have this be a vibrant ecosystem.
So real liquidity, where the real money is to this industry, figuring out that once they have liquidity, once they see how this asset class can be unlocked, they will provide real big money.
To me, securitizing assets into tokens and creating this massive amount of liquidity in markets that were traditionally illiquid is such an exciting proposition, not only for the people participating in the token economy, but for the holders of this illiquid asset, for them to be able to liquefy it and see money off of their assets is just a real, it's a new world and really exciting world.
The whole security token movement it's a tsunami, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Obviously everybody talks about how awesome it is to be able to raise money globally in an instant, and how awesome it is to have these private assets that are now going to be tradable and liquid. To me though, the most exciting thing is what a security is going to be now that you have all these new technologies that are going to enable it to be anything.
And I've now seen references here to this notion of there's a payment token, which are your traditional sort of cryptocurrencies. You've got utility tokens, and then you've got security tokens. Now, what's important to remember about the utility tokens is they may be subject to securities laws. If you're selling them to fund a network which hasn't been built yet, you've got to comply with the securities laws. But let's still call them utility tokens as long as we understand that you might be subject to that regulation.
I think in the long term, maybe the SEC doesn't believe it or not quite today, but there has to be some change to the structure in which we regulate these tools because they don't fit into neat buckets in the way that our current regulatory environment is structured.
I like the clarity that's starting to emerge with just terminology right now. I was never a fan of the term utility token because people would use that term as sort of a defensive declaration that I'm not a security.
First of all, security is basically an agreement. It's an agreement for people to have an investment contract of some sort that says if I give you something, you're going to get X for that in exchange for this thing called a security, which might be a share. All a token does is takes that agreement that's made in the real world by human beings and references something that is on a blockchain like a token, and that's what a securities token is.
People are aware that there are malicious participants in this market, just in any market, and that they should use cautionary steps whenever they are purchasing, selling, buying any tokens, even securities, right? When I used to work on Wall Street, I always said to my friends, do not enter the stock market exchange unless you know someone who can safely kind of walk you through that path. So even it goes the same way for this tokenized securities economy, and probably with more scrutiny, right? You even need to be more on your guard.
For me, I see the evolution of the securities token space, or I should say the token space, has been evolving into the securities token space. I do think that eventually there will definitely be, in my opinion, a differentiation between securities tokens, things which either look like traditional securities or are backed by assets, but in a way that differentiates them from spot commodities.
I think a security token is the same way traditional assets are run right now. It's just a more efficient version of what we've been doing in the past. And it's an easier way to raise funds from anyone around the world. Just a more efficient version of that. So it's kind of like the same thing at the core. It's just a more efficient approach to kind of getting to the end goal.
Can you write us a utility token opinion? You know, and we'd say, well, no, because you know, if you're using it to raise money to fund this venture, then you've got yourself a security. And a lot of times they'd argue back and there'd be some hostility, you know?
Right, sure.
And December, January comes around and now clients come to us and they say, hey, we're doing an ICO. We understand in the United States that you know, we've got to do a Reg D or some other exemption. And so it's amazing how quickly things changed overnight.
But what I want to emphasize here is that today the regulatory landscape is still forming, and not many today can say, even the regulators themselves, can't say where things are heading exactly and how the regulation is going to be reportable. But that's why surveillance is so critical. That's something that we can do today. That's something that companies can show to regulators in good faith. Here, we're monitoring our system. We know what's happening underneath our hood. We can say whether or not there's any malicious activity that is being manifested, whether if it's front running or spoofing or other ways that malicious activity can abuse the system.
2018 will be the year of the security token. And I think people are waking up to why, you know, why. A lot of people are saying, look, this is a $1 trillion market, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think when the protocols really get fully developed and get adopted, you know, the fractionalization of assets that you're going to see, these assets are going to have access to a global market. It's going to be a more competitive market. I think the asset prices are going to go up.
Big prediction for over the next 12 months. I think there's going to be a lot more clarity with regulators, because it's kind of been a gray area for a while now. So I think when regulators clear up like actions that they're going to take and kind of clear up the rules, I think there's going to be a lot more capital being invested in securities tokens. So you see a ton of growth over the next 12 months, I think.
12 to 18 months will be exciting because you will have fully operational exchanges that are trading securities tokens, and they will have pairs with Bitcoin and Ethereum and other crypto that exists now. And I think they're going to raise a lot of money, just like ICOs did.